Welcome to Meet the Candidates 2024, a voter education program brought to you by the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce. My name is Tim Zunker, and I am the president with the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau. Our hope is that these candidate interviews and profiles will help you, the voter, understand your choices when it comes to the 2024 election. We ask voters to arm themselves with the information necessary to make educated choices and to make casting your vote a priority. Please visit the Shakopee Chamber website at shakopee.org to find out more information about the upcoming election for Scott County Commissioner District 1. And now I'd like to welcome Commissioner Weckman, Barb Weckman Brekke, to join us today. Thank you for joining us. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Tim, and thanks to the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce for hosting these interviews. It's a really important contribution to our elections, and thanks for inviting me. I am Barb Weckman Brekke, and I'm thrilled to be County Commissioner for District 1 here in Scott County. District 1 includes the cities of Belle Plaine, Jordan, the Scott County part of New Prague, a couple precincts in Shakopee, and then 7 townships: Belle Plaine, Blakely, Helena, Jackson, Louisville, St. Lawrence, and Sand Creek. I think I named them all there. I live in Jackson County, and I live in Jackson Township, and I've lived in Scott County almost all of my life. My business is in Scott County. I'm an attorney, and I own a small law firm here in Shakopee with 2 of my partners. I have 4 adult children and 2 adorable granddaughters. This is my 8th year serving as Scott County Commissioner. Prior to running for office, I served on several Scott County advisory boards and councils. I was an active volunteer in the community, serving in volunteer positions in my church, local schools, the Shakopee Rotary, St. Francis Hospital, and Dollars for Scholars. The vibrance and health and safety of our local communities is so very important to me and really fuels my passion for public service.
Thank you, Barb. We'll get into the questions. What are your top 3 priorities for Scott County? And if reelected, how do you plan to achieve them?
Thanks. Well, Tim, frankly, I have and hope to continue and influence all areas of county government, but there are 3 priorities that I'd like to highlight. Seeing several crucial transportation projects completed, building on the county's efforts to increase family health, resiliency, and positive self-sufficiency, and transforming government in a way to increase efficiencies, save money, but still yield positive outcomes. I'll speak to each of these briefly. First, in transportation, wow, we've seen huge changes and really positive growth and maintenance in the road systems throughout Scott County. Besides the county's focus on its own road systems, elected officials from all of our elected jurisdictions and staff have worked hard to gather funding from state and federal entities to improve major trunk highways that go through Scott County that serve residents, visitors, commuters, and commerce. For District 1, the focus has really been on Highway 169. We have worked with the City of Jordan, Sand Creek Township, St. Lawrence Township, as well as our state and federal partners to design, fund, and we're getting really close to actual construction on all 3 interchanges on 169, which when complete will significantly improve safety and mobility through that corridor. My priority is to make sure and see to completion all 3 of these interchanges in the next couple of years. The second major transportation transformation in Scott County has been occurring over the past decade and will continue to progress over the next years, but we are hopefully on the home stretch. This is Highway 13 through Savage. It's one of the most heavily traveled corridors in Scott County, used by local residents, businesses, but also for much of the state. It's a very important corridor for agricultural products to get from southern Minnesota to the ports of Savage. We all know that when grain trucks are coming in every day and the daily traffic, the safety of that corridor is compromised. We've made some good steps, but now we've been garnering federal support and state funding and really hope to get the shovels in the ground for that next segment from Quentin Avenue in Savage all the way to the Dakota County line. So those transportation projects are definitely one of the top 3 priorities. My second priority really has to do with family health and resiliency. In general, I kind of think government should stay out of family life, right? But county government is mandated. We're mandated to get involved in situations where things aren't going well, especially when children are in danger, when there's severe substance abuse, where there's folks living with disabilities who need help, where there's criminal behavior, and when there's severe mental health challenges. The human and fiscal costs of these situations are huge and really can impact the next generation and our whole community. Through targeted investment and opportunities for voluntary education and resources, and truly the creativity and hard work of county staff and partners, we're actually changing outcomes in Scott County. We are starting to see positive results from the work, including less children in out-of-home placement, less criminal activity and time spent in jail, and individual, family, and community willingness to address mental health issues and substance abuse before the damage is insurmountable and before the county is mandated to get involved. In the end, these efforts really will save money as well as change lives. I want to support the continuance of these efforts, which include our Family Resource Center, transformation housing, and coordinated response with law enforcement. So that would be my second main priority over the next term. And then finally, my third priority is really to look at ways that we can transform government. I talked about all the things the county's mandated to do. Well, probably 80% of what county government does is mandated by the state or federal level. We are mandated to provide certain services in certain ways and use certain computer programs to do so and follow certain processes. Many times, these programs and processes create inefficiencies and cost a lot of money and staff time. I'm committed to working with our administration and my colleagues from other counties in Minnesota to advocate and convince our representatives at the state legislature and in Congress to change some of these systems and processes. We can't just keep spending more money doing the same thing. I think we really need to be creative. We need to look at these things and do them in a better way. So I'm a big believer in continually evaluating our processes, reviewing data, and advocating for change. I'm probably most excited about this, Tim, because over the past 8 years, I've learned so much about county government and what we must do. And finally, I'm seeing some ways that I can make some change that hopefully will be generational change how we do business in Scott County.
Great. Thank you, Barb. The certified county levy for property taxes in Scott County increased by 4% as of February 2024, according to the Minnesota Department of Revenue. While this is lower than the state average of 5.5%, what strategies do you have in place to manage property taxes in light of rising costs for county services?
Yeah, that's a really timely question, Tim. Just like our costs at home and in our businesses are rising, so are the costs of providing county services. Wages have increased, costs of benefits have increased, the supplies we buy have increased, and people really are the bulk of the county budget. We will continue to work to manage the costs of providing these services we are mandated to provide and the services that residents ask for, like libraries and parks. As a board and administration, we spend many days in August and September going through each program area, getting data on outcomes, reviewing the budget, and looking for ways to transform government and control costs. The work on transforming government I spoke to a few minutes ago is really the best way we can control costs. If we can persuade the state legislature and Congress to change the requirements that they have in place for how certain services must be provided, we can save money and hopefully increase outcomes. On the other end of the question is that we can all do things in partnership with the community to decrease crime and criminal activity. The important public safety services the county provides, like the jail, 911 dispatch, probation, and the county attorney, take up a significant and increasing part of the county budget. If we as a community can get to a point where we have less people committing crimes, less folks having mental health crises, and less parents neglecting or abusing their children, we can save loads of tax dollars. So that's why it's important for us to work on that community togetherness, that family resiliency, and those preventive services. Because if we can save that deep end government involvement, which doesn't necessarily produce great outcomes and costs a lot of money, we'll be in a much better place tax-wise too.
Great, thank you. What measures would you take to ensure fiscal responsibility and transparency in the county's budget?
Yeah, good question. Transparency is something that we're all working towards. And even in my 8 years on the Scott County Board, the amount of information on county services and the county budget available to the public has increased tremendously. You can go on the county website and obtain fairly detailed information about our budget. Once a month, the Scott County Board hosts a conversation during a board meeting called Scott County Delivers, where staff and community partners can really take a deep dive into the work of a specific department, initiative, or activity. These conversations are live streamed and available later on YouTube. It is really interesting and frankly fun for me to talk with community members and residents who've viewed these conversations and have questions. And sometimes they really even have good ideas about how we can do this work better. So the transparency isn't only just a good checks and balance on government. It's a great way for the community to be involved in government and make a difference. So in addition, we receive an increasing number of requests for public information, including financial information, and do our best to respond to those requests promptly and efficiently. I think we're on a great path towards increased transparency in county government. I think at least here in Scott County and the culture of this area is we've always tried to be fiscally responsible. That's a demand from all of us as citizens and residents, so we'll continue to do that.
Great. Thank you, Barb. If elected, how will you support economic development and job creation for Scott County?
Well, one of the best ways, I think, for any of us to support economic development and job creation in Scott County is to make sure our property tax levels stay reasonable and low compared to our neighbors. Make sure appropriate infrastructure is available for businesses to come and grow and build here, and make this a great place to live. That's what's going to, increase our economy. This requires work across jurisdictions with our cities and townships. Not everyone agrees how economic development across the county should look. And that's okay. I do feel like those local jurisdictions, cities and townships, they should drive those decisions in their local areas. And from the county level, I just want to support them on economic development in their jurisdiction, work with them to provide smart infrastructure for the future, whether that be roads, sewers, water, that type of thing. And I think this is a good point to bring up. Sometimes people think that the county is the boss of the cities and the townships. Not at all. We're different jurisdictions with different mandates, different responsibilities, and different powers. The great thing about Scott County, though, is we really make an effort, I think, across all of those jurisdictions and with our community partners like the Chamber to work together towards the same goals. I hear from business owners and crucial community institutions that the labor force is one of our biggest challenges in that economic development and infrastructure. And that's something where it is a county function to help folks who don't have good employment or who are laid off or underemployed get jobs. So we've worked hard over the past couple of years to increase opportunities for training for jobs here at home in Scott County. After a smaller project called the Workforce Mobility Project, we are now working with Tim, with you and the Shakopee Chamber on an effort called Drive for Five to provide training in high-need careers like medical assistants and boiler operators and connect those trained individuals with jobs here. I think this is a great example of a partnership where it's not just government, but it's government along with the Chamber, along with businesses, along with education, saying, here's really the needs. Let's get some of the residents who live here who want a better job or who are unemployed right now, get them the training they need to help the businesses right here. That's the way we can really spur economic development, growth, and sustainable growth, the kind that we want, where folks do well, can buy housing here, can send their kids to school here, and live here a long time. The other thing I'm just really proud of, here in Scott County, we have a really high labor force participation rate. More people who are from the ages of 16 all the way into senior citizens are in the workforce than in many of our neighboring places. That makes it hard sometimes if you're a business owner to find employees, but it also is just great for our community and for our economy here.
Great. Thank you, Barb. According to the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, Scott County was the second fastest growing county in the state of Minnesota from 2010 to 2022, and is projected to show continued population growth through 2035. With the current and projected population growth, how would you address associated infrastructure demands, including housing, for Scott County?
Yeah, growth has really been our trend for a long time. As somebody who's lived here all her life, it's a different place than when I was a kid. And with that growth comes blessings and challenges. So first off, it's important to remember that most of that growth-related infrastructure occurs in our cities. Cities are their own political subdivisions, get to make their own decisions. And one of the best things from a county perspective we can do is support them and stay out of their way. We can support them by making sure our transportation systems, the county systems, and then the state systems that we try and help influence are good and work with the city plans. We can support this by working with Scott County Community Development Agency to support housing infrastructure that serves certain populations, and interact with the Met Council as well as our local jurisdictions to come to some agreements about land use and long-term planning. Housing, of course, housing is just a rising expense for all families, and especially here in Scott County. I think the best thing we can do is to have a variety of housing stock, good housing stock that's appropriate for families, that matches the jobs we have here. And from a county perspective, one of the things that we really is kind of in our charge or our bucket is to look for certain populations, whether that be senior citizens on limited incomes, making sure there's options for them to stay in the community, good, safe options, whether that's young folks, maybe it's folks with disabilities. And that's a way where I feel like, especially in the past couple of years with the American Rescue Plan dollars and other things, we've been able to make some investments in those certain types of housing that will keep our community strong.
Great. Thank you, Barb. And what are your plans to improve public safety and community services in Scott County?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. That's a huge question, and that is so much of what the county does: public safety and community services, from the jail, 911 dispatch, to 24/7 operations that as residents sometimes we just take for granted, to child protection, keeping our roadways safe, protecting our most vulnerable citizens, including people with disabilities and the elderly. That list goes on and on. I'm really proud to say that Scott County, through its Sheriff's Department and the Scott County Attorney's Office, works regularly with the cities and townships to continually improve public safety here in Scott County. One recent initiative that I'd love to highlight is our coordinated response program that started as a project between Scott County, the Sheriff's Office, Shakopee Police Department, and Savage Police Department. We've used some grant dollars and some of the settlement dollars we received from the National Opioid Settlement to set up social workers embedded within these two police departments and the Sheriff's Office. The social workers are really part of the department. The police chief and leadership are involved in hiring the social worker for their department, and they interact with our law enforcement to identify and follow up with folks in our communities who really need other resources and supports, often in the areas of mental health. And this response from our law enforcement friends and the community has been overwhelmingly positive. One of my main goals is to use our learnings from this first year and a half of the program to really further develop and grow the program in a way to reach for folks early, provide that needed support to law enforcement so they can do their jobs. We often hear from our police officers that they're dealing with situations that aren't really about law enforcement, but it's folks in the community needing help. And if we can get them connected to resources earlier before they do things that need to be addressed by law enforcement, we can all save money and have safer communities. So I'm excited about how well all of our jurisdictions and our departments have worked together on this program. And those folks who are on the ground right now, those police officers, those social workers, they're going to know how to grow that program best, how to build it, and do those things that really create a better community.
Great. Thank you, Barb. That is all our questions. So I'd like to give you the opportunity for a closing statement and message to the voters.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. And once again, thanks to the Shakopee Chamber for doing this work. One of the county's duties is to facilitate fair and transparent and safe elections. And I think efforts like this only make our election process better, getting information out and allowing voters to learn about candidates and learn about government in other ways. So again, my appreciation for that. So even though I entered this work 8 years ago with some familiarity about county government and really a passion for it, I've learned so much about our community, about the role of county government, and opportunities to do better. Scott County is my lifelong home, and I truly care about its vibrancy and health and the safety of its residents. I would like the opportunity of serving as county commissioner for another term to continue this work on completing major transportation projects in Scott County, continuing and furthering our new and dynamic work on building family resiliency and self-sufficiency, and changing how we deliver government services to be more efficient, but also more impactful. So I just thank you, the voters, for your consideration of me. Everybody should get out and vote. And if you have any questions on that, the Shakopee Chamber has a lot of great resources for learning about candidates, for understanding and knowing where your polling place is. And hope everybody has a great day.
Great. Thank you, Barb. The views expressed in these interviews are those of the candidates, not those of the Chamber and Visitors Bureau. The Chamber is sponsoring these interviews as a service to the community and has gone to great lengths to ensure the objectivity. The Chamber does not endorse any candidate, but seeks to provide you, the citizens and voters of Shakopee, with the information you need to make an informed choice. The Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau extends a sincere thank you to the candidates. Again, thank you so much, Barb. We appreciate your time and your service to our community by running for office. You're performing an important service to us all. Again, thank you for joining us for this edition of Meet the Candidates 2024. Thank you, Barb.
Thank you, Tim.